My ex made a fake Tinder account using my photos and said, "It's just a joke." So I signed up his phone number for every spam service I could find. His phone hasn't stopped ringing for days. 3 years ago, I met Garrick at a local coffee shop in Portland, Oregon. It was one of those rainy days where everything feels cozy. He was charming in that effortlessly cool way. You know the type: vintage jacket, too much confidence, and this quirky smile that makes you feel like you're the only person in the room. I thought I'd hit the jackpot. He was artsy, talked about poetry, and even volunteered with animals. I thought he was perfect. But Garrick wasn't perfect. Far from it. For the first year of our relationship, things were fine. He cooked for me once or twice, wrote me poems on napkins, and showed me his favorite spots in the city. But slowly, the shine started to fade. He didn't have a job, he called himself, between projects, which was his way of saying he had no intention of getting a real job. He was full of big ideas: a kombucha business, a photography side hustle, and even a plan to create a modern poetry app that never left the notebook stage. Meanwhile, I was working full-time, paying for most things, and cleaning up after him. At first, I told myself it was just a phase. That he'd figure it out. Spoiler, he didn't. 6 months ago, I finally hit my limit. I told him I couldn't do it anymore. I didn't yell, I didn't throw things, and I didn't call him names. I simply told him I was tired and that I wanted to move on. He acted like I just slapped him in the face. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice dripping with disbelief. "I mean we're done," I said, grabbing my coat. I packed my things that weekend and moved into a small studio apartment across town. I thought that was it. I thought I could finally breathe and start over. Garrick, of course, thought otherwise. It started 2 weeks ago. I got a random text from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, gorgeous. You up for drinks tonight?" At first, I thought it was just a wrong number. I replied with a polite, "Sorry, I think you have the wrong person." But then another text came through. And another. Within an hour, I had messages from at least a dozen random men. "Hey, saw your profile on Tinder. When are you free? Wow, you're stunning. Let's meet up. Are you into casual or something more serious?" It didn't take long for me to realize what was happening. Someone, Garrick, had made a fake Tinder profile using my photos. I downloaded the app, and sure enough, there it was, my face, my first name, and some cringe-worthy bio that sounded nothing like me. Spontaneous, fiery, and looking for adventure. Swipe right if you can handle a wild one, winky face. It even had photos I'd taken in private moments, like one of me in pajamas drinking coffee. I don't even know how he got that one. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just a prank, it was humiliating. I was livid. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my keys and drove straight to Garrick's apartment. When he opened the door, he looked surprised, like he didn't think I'd figure it out so quickly. "What's up?" he said casually, leaning on the doorframe. "Take the profile down, Garrick," I said, holding up my phone to show him the screenshots. He smirked. "Oh, come on. It's just a joke." "A joke? Are you serious?" My voice was shaking. "Do you have any idea how creepy this is? How violating this is?" He shrugged like it was no big deal. "You're overreacting. No one's actually going to meet you or anything. It's just for fun." "For fun?" I repeated, my voice rising. "I've been getting messages all day from random men who think I'm interested in them." He rolled his eyes. "Lighten up, Maeve. It's not like I hurt you or anything." That was it. That was the moment I realized Garrick wasn't just lazy or immature, he was cruel. He genuinely didn't care about how his actions affected me. I left before I could say something I'd regret, but I wasn't done with him. Not by a long shot. When I got home, I started brainstorming. At first, I thought about reporting the profile to Tinder, but that didn't feel like enough. Garrick thought he could humiliate me and get away with it. No. He needed to learn a lesson. That's when I remembered something I'd read online, a story about someone signing their enemy's phone number up for spam services. It was petty, sure, but it felt perfect. I opened my laptop and got to work. The first site I found was a sweepstakes page. You know the type: enter your phone number for a chance to win $10,000. Garrick's number went in. Then I found a fake payday loan site. Get $5,000 today, no credit check. Garrick's number went in. After that, I found a few shady insurance companies, telemarketer lists, and a free cruise giveaway. By the time I was done, I'd entered Garrick's phone number into at least 300 different forms. Some even asked for his email, which I gladly provided. The call started almost immediately. The next morning, Garrick called me. It was 7 a.m., way earlier than he ever wakes up. "What the hell did you do?" he shouted the second I answered. "What are you talking about?" I said, trying to sound innocent. My phone won't stop ringing, he yelled. It's non-stop. Insurance quotes, loan offers, people saying I've been pre-approved for something. It's every 5 minutes. I smiled to myself. Wow, that sounds really annoying. Maeve, I know this was you, he snapped. Why would I do something like that, Garrick? I asked, my voice dripping with fake sweetness. He went on a rant about how immature and crazy I was, but I hung up before he could finish. I didn't feel bad. Not even a little. Garrick thought he could violate my privacy, humiliate me, and brush it off as a joke. He didn't care about the consequences, so I made sure he had some to deal with. I heard through the grapevine that Garrick had to change his number. Apparently, he missed an important call from a freelance gig because his phone was so flooded with spam. Good. Maybe now he'll think twice before pulling another joke. Over the next few weeks, Garrick tried to make my life difficult. He started subtweeting me on Twitter, posting vague messages like, "Some people are just psycho and don't know how to take a joke." I ignored it. He left a couple of snide comments on my Instagram posts, but I blocked him. I figured he'd eventually move on. But Garrick didn't know when to quit. One night, I was out with friends when I got a message from a mutual acquaintance, Luna. She sent me a screenshot of something Garrick had posted in a private group chat. It was a photo of my new apartment building with the caption, "Guess where Maeve lives now, LOL." My stomach dropped. He had no reason to know where I lived, let alone share it. I hadn't even told him when I moved. I realized he must have followed me home one day. The thought made my skin crawl. This wasn't just about pettiness anymore. This was crossing a line into something much darker. I decided I needed to take it up a notch. I wasn't going to let Garrick scare me, but I wasn't going to take any chances either. First, I filed a police report about the post. I didn't think much would come of it, but I wanted something on record in case things escalated. Then I got to work on my next move. I remembered something Garrick had told me while we were dating, how much he hated being embarrassed in public. He prided himself on being cool and loved the admiration of his artsy friends. I decided to use that against him. Through Luna, bless her nosy soul, I found out that Garrick had recently started dating a girl named Phoebe. She was young, sweet, and, according to Luna, completely oblivious to Garrick's toxic tendencies. I felt bad for her. She was walking into the same trap I had, and she deserved to know the truth. So, I put together a little care package. I printed out screenshots of the fake Tinder profile, the texts from random men, and even his posts about my apartment building. I included a handwritten note explaining everything Garrick had done to me, from using my photos without consent to trying to humiliate me online. I ended it with, "I just want you to know the kind of person you're dealing with. Be careful." I mailed the package anonymously to Phoebe. I didn't know how she'd react, but I hoped it would at least plant a seed of doubt. Then, I went a step further. Through Luna, I found out Garrick was hosting an open mic poetry night at a small bar he frequented. It was one of those places where everyone knows each other, and Garrick loved being the center of attention. I decided it was the perfect opportunity to give him a taste of his own medicine. I showed up that night with a USB drive in my pocket. On it was a short video I'd made, a slideshow of all the evidence of Garrick's behavior, set to some ironically cheerful background music. It included the Tinder screenshots, the texts from men, and the post about my apartment. At the end, I added a message that said, "Don't mess with the wrong woman." When it was time for Garrick's performance, I approached the bar owner and asked if I could play a tribute video before he went on stage. The owner, who knew Garrick and seemed amused by the idea, agreed. As the video played on the projector screen, the room went dead silent. People gasped and whispered to each other. Garrick's face turned beet red as he realized what was happening. By the time the final slide appeared, he looked like he wanted to crawl under the table and disappear. When the video ended, I stood up and said, "Garrick thought it was funny to humiliate me online. I just wanted to return the favor." The crowd erupted in laughter and applause. Some people booed Garrick. A couple of his friends even walked out. He stormed out of the bar, leaving his notebook behind. After that night, Garrick's reputation was in shambles. People in his social circle started distancing themselves from him, and word got around about what he'd done. Phoebe dumped him after receiving my package and thanked me for the warning. She told me she'd already noticed some red flags but hadn't been sure what to do. My package gave her the push she needed to leave him. As for me, I finally felt like I could breathe again. Garrick stopped trying to contact me after that. Maybe he realized he was outmatched, or maybe he just couldn't handle the embarrassment. Either way, I was free. Looking back, I don't regret a thing. Garrick thought he could use me as a joke, as a punchline, as entertainment for his own ego. But I showed him what happens when you mess with someone who refuses to be your victim. Sometimes, revenge is the best way to reclaim your power. And that, my friends, is how I turned the tables on my ex.